what's up guys? Welcome back to Move Plus. As for now, we'll look at that warm-up. So we're gonna start things off with 2 minutes of cardio of your choice. Now, we're actually gonna combine 2 movements with this one. So we're gonna see 20 jumping jacks, just gonna look like that. And then we're gonna move into 10 box jumps. So standing up on top of the box there. So those two things go back and forth for 2 minutes. From there, the next 3 minutes, what we're gonna do is as many rounds as we can of 3 reps on either side of a single dumbbell deadlift. So going 3 on one side, 3 on the other. We then go into the same setup of upright row. So 3 on one side, then 3 on the other. We then go to 3 up downs. So jumping the feet out, jumping in and standing up. And then we go into 3 burpees. So that's all the way down plus the jump at the top. So that'll just be on repeat for those remaining 3 minutes. Good to go? Starting in 10, so 2 minutes of cardio of your choice, guys. You can pick whatever you want to do here as long as it's going to get that heart rate up. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're alternating between 20 jumping jacks and 10 box jumps. As I said, you guys can pick whatever you want to do there. You can pick just one movement if you want to and go with that. The key things here are that it's simple movements. You don't have to think about too much. You don't need to do a pre-warm-up before the warm-up. Okay, so you better just roll straight into them. Shouldn't be too heavy, shouldn't be too technical. So we're just looking for stuff that is nice and accessible, nice and straightforward. If you're doing the box jump like we are here, guys, you'll notice we've deliberately gone quite a low box. And that's just so we can get an easy start to this. So that as opposed to jumping straight into a 24 or a 30-inch box or something crazy like that. We just want to ramp the body up in intensity gradually. So with the jumping jacks, guys, we're looking for the feet to close and open each jump. Okay, legs are reasonably straight, but tiny little bit of sort of bend at the knees and hips just to kind of cushion that impact or that rebound. Arms are going to go from thighs up to overhead and trying to make a nice big sweeping arm position. Trying not to shortcut that. We want to get the maximum effect out of it. Now with the jump, it's a 2-footed takeoff to a 2-footed landing and standing tall at the top. So really looking for a good established control position at the top. What we don't want to do is sort of land on the edge and just pop straight back off or fall off the back of it. We want to make sure we are grounded and balanced at the top there. So 30 more seconds. Remember, from here, guys, we move to that 3-minute section where we're going to see the single arm deadlifts, upright rows. Then we move to the up downs and the burpees. So 20 more seconds. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So 3 deadlifts on one side, 3 deadlifts on the other. So it's from ground to a full stand up on these. You can just point the front end of the dumbbell down. You don't have to have both heads touch. From there, we've got 3 upright rows on one side and then 3 on the other. So that's going to be from about sort of your pocket up to your collarbone. That'll be our 2 markers for that. Now we're moving to the up downs. Now, one thing that Em's demoing here is this is how you can scale the up down, guys. She's elevated that front end. Typically, this would get done on the floor like the burpee would, but if you need to adjust it a little bit, that's totally fine to have a little bit more height on the front end, make it a little bit easier. And now with the burpees, we're going to go right down to full depth. So it's hands on ground, chest to ground, and then we're getting a little bit of a jump and a clap out the top there. And now we'll cycle back around to the top of the list. So most important part here, guys, is keeping the back nice and straight and trying to keep the shoulders and hips nice and squared. Sometimes when we do single-sided movements, the body has a tendency to want to twist and move kind of in the wrong patterns there. So try to keep everything nice and level as if you've got a dumbbell in the other hand. Okay, we'll move to the up downs again. So this is that elevated front end. We want to see a nice, strong, straight push-up position at the bottom and then a full hip extension at the top, so standing tall. And then extending on that into that burpee on the floor. So both of them have the same kind of hand position, guys. It's about shoulder width. So we're kind of stacking under there, keeping it nice and close to that driving force. Now, if you happen to find touching the ground with the dumbbell, guys, kind of pulls you into a bad position. Maybe your body's twisting a lot, maybe you're rounding over. Just bring the height up a little bit, go down just past the knees. See if you can keep yourself nice and squared up. We got 1 more minute on this. So there's those high pulls again. This one's a strict movement, guys, so no sort of hip extending or anything like that. We're just going to keep everything nice and locked in. M does sort of like a rebound back in with this, but if you feel like you're kind of just learning this or getting the hang of it, you can actually pause at the bottom there for a moment. Get a feel for that position. 30 seconds. Good. All right, go to those deadlifts again. So you want to think about hamstrings and glutes on this one, guys, so tense them as you stand up. Good, and we go to the upright row. So this one's going to be more shoulders and traps, and arms. Good, and done. Alrighty, so that is the warm-up done, guys. Take a little bit of recovery time. We're going to push into build next. Alrighty, guys, we're going to check out the build workout now. So this one has a 9-minute time frame, 3 sets we're going to work through. So first thing we're going to do is a dumbbell seesaw floor press. So we're going to set ourselves up on the ground. Okay, and from there it is 1 arm pressing at a time. Okay, that'll go back and forth for 20 reps. We're then going to pop up and go into 20 reps on a seesaw bent over row. So that will be coming down to like a deadlift position. Same sort of motion, the arms go back and forth alternating along the way. So if it's 3 sets in 9 minutes, what we're hopefully going to see is that you take 1 minute to do the first movement, 1 minute to do the second movement, and then you've got about a minute off or thereabouts. Doesn't have to be that exactly, but if we can do that, that'll spread things out nicely, give you some rest in between the rounds, and it'll get us done in that 9-minute time frame. Emma, you good to go? All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So setting up for this floor press, guys. The most important part of this is that we keep those shoulder blades pressed back together into the ground. So we're kind of elevating the chest up, making sure we get those muscles on deck to do the work. And we're going to get the arm or the elbow to touch the ground at the bottom, full lockout at the top there. Em's got her legs straight out. You can also go legs bent with the feet planted. It's kind of a bit more of a comfort thing for you, but as long as you feel stable and you don't feel like you're rocking and rolling as we go from right to left on this press. As I said, the more important thing is that we get those shoulder blades to wedge back together. So 20 reps on this, and then we're going to move into the seesaw bent over row. So just so we're clear on this, guys, it's 20 reps in total. It's not 20 reps on each side. So you'll end up doing 10 reps on each side to make up the 20. Now with this, we want to make sure that we establish a nice straight back position. So same rules as when we do deadlifts or cleans or anything like that. We don't want to round over. We want to get down to a position where the dumbbells are sitting at knee height or even just a little bit below that. And then at the top, we're thinking about getting the elbow past the line of the body. So you should find that your shoulder blade's got to really retract and pull back, get those lats to fire up as we move through those rows. All right, so that took us roughly about 90 seconds, so we've got a little bit of rest now, which is good. You can recover. We'll hit the next round at the 3-minute marker. Feel free to stretch, get some water, that sort of thing on these rests. So we've got about 1 more minute's break, and we'll hit that second round. 20 seconds. All right, we'll get ourselves into position, going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if we think about hand and wrist position on these presses, guys, and for any pressing motion for that matter, if we can get the weight or the handle of the dumbbell to sit across kind of the thick pad of the palm at the bottom of your hand, that should line it up into a nice sort of stacked position over the bones in your wrist and the bones in your arm. That, as opposed to my hand being kind of cranked back and stretching and hanging from all the tissues in the wrist there, it's just a weaker position to operate from. So try to actually squeeze into a fist, like you're punching through the dumbbell. And then I always like to think like I'm actually trying to, rather than me trying to push the dumbbell up, I'm trying to push my shoulder back through the floor, and that gets that really nice scapular position, gets it to lock in and utilize the back muscles as well as the front muscles. All right, so we move to this seesaw bent over row now. So again, we take that deadlift position with the straight back. Em's got her head in a neutral position here. If you find that you're someone who have a little bit of trouble kind of coordinating that nice neutral spine, you might find that actually popping your head up a little bit and looking ahead allows you to establish that a little bit more. Obviously, Em's got good control, so she can have that head down, but that can be something you can use just to sort of sort yourself into better position. It helps to have a little bit of softness at the knees, just to kind of allow that nice, really deep hinge position. We don't want to have those knees kind of jutting forward because we want to be able to get the dumbbells kind of in front of the shins, but that would just allow for us to get that really good, solid bent over row spot at the bottom there. Okay, so just over a minute until the next one. We'll go at the 6-minute marker for that third and final round. Okay, 20 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds, we'll start getting ourselves ready to go. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So third and final round, guys, we want to make sure we're keeping the same level of control, so just checking in all those same technique pointers. Remember, with this being a seesaw press versus just a regular floor press, you're going to find there's going to be a little bit of feeling of right to left as the weight shifts. So as I said, you can go legs out straight or legs bent, but either way, just probably split them a little bit so you've got a little bit of lateral stability. You can dig into the floor. And although this is predominantly an upper body movement, we want to get the lower body to kind of help stabilize and wind tension up. So there shouldn't be any part of your body that's really like relaxed or just sit there just for the sake of it. You want to make sure we're using everything to our advantage. Em's keeping her head nice and flat on the ground. Sometimes when people are pressing, there's a tendency to kind of crane the head up or crane that neck up off the floor, which is just going to put undue stress on there. So always keeping that in a nice neutral position. If you find along the way with these rows, guys, that you're starting to go, oh, those dumbbells are getting lower and lower, my back feels worse and worse, stand up for a moment, get that chest up nice and tall, and then recommence that hinge position. You want to think about the entire sort of upper quarter of your back really flexing as you hit this row. So I always like to imagine like you're pulling a bow and arrow, that kind of feeling. All right. So that's the third and final one done, guys. We've got about 1:20 left on the clock. So if you're still going, that's cool. Take your time with it. Add that tempo to it if you want to make it a little bit more challenging. We'll run out the clock and then we'll push forward from here. Okay, so 60 seconds left. Hopefully you're moving through sort of the last lot of those seesaw bent over rows. Last 30 seconds. And done. All right, guys, so that is the build section done. Grab yourself some water and then we're gonna finish off with a little bit of mobility work. All right, guys, so now that we're through all the hard stuff, we're just going to cool things down with a little bit of mobility work. So the first drill we're gonna do is a hammy stretch. So we're gonna use this jumper just as a little bit of kind of a hook around the foot. If you happen to have bands or a skipping rope, even a belt works well. Basically what we'll do is just loop it underneath the foot, lay back, and then straighten that leg out. So we're gonna do this for 45 seconds on each side. So a couple of things we're looking out for is we're trying to get the leg as straight as possible. Ultimately, the end goal down the track is that we get a fully straight leg back past sort of hip level, okay? You might not have that at this stage in time, that's okay. You can put a little bit of softness in the knee, work back and forth, gently encourage it to get back there over time. You can kind of work on pressing the leg to a straighter position. Main thing is we're just sort of tensioning on and off that hamstring and that this other leg is straight out. So we don't want to have that one bent on the ground, we want to have that one all the way straight. You can see that Em's keeping her head and shoulders back on the ground too, so allowing herself to kind of sink back into it. And switching sides. So having the jumper or the band or the skipping rope, whatever it is, just gives you a little bit more access to kind of draw back on it. You can do this one without one of them and you can just actually hang on to your leg. But sometimes if we're at the end of a workout, the legs are sweaty, the hands are sweaty, it's a little bit hard to grip on. This just gives us a much more comfortable purchase on there. And also allows it to kind of draw the foot back as well, which is going to kind of increase that stretch even more. So just hanging out there, 45 seconds each side. We'll do 15 more seconds here. 3, 2, 1, and popping up out of that one. So that's our first drill. Second one is a standing quad stretch. So this is just a good old-fashioned one. Grabbing onto something for balance and just hooking the foot up behind our butt. So knees are close together. We're going to try and open through the hips there as much as possible. So really looking at your quad into hip flexor being the target muscle group here. So I always like to sort of take a moment to check in, am I postured up as tall as I can be? Are my shoulders and my hips square? Are my knees together? Try to maximize the stretch as much as you can. So 5 more seconds. All right, switching sides. So you can see from this side, guys, this nice straight line through the hip there. If you find that you're ever sort of crooked forward, we want to try and wind that knee back as much as we can. And it helps too, if you want to really dial this in, tense your abs, tense your glutes, and that will kind of get the pelvis to kind of almost feel like it rolls back a little bit and just winds that stretch up even more. That's going to be really good for anything that is like an explosive hip extension. So things like cleans, things like jumping, things like running, that sort of stuff. We're nice and fluent through there. That's going to help a lot. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so those are our 2 drills, guys. Give that 3 or 4 rounds, get the body nice and loose. Otherwise, we will catch you next time, and that's been your MOV+ workout.